Hey guys, Nix here. So I just got done watching a couple more of my videos and I came across the True Puka responding to Shock of God, and I must admit that I have watched True Puka's video, but I haven't gone through Shock of God's yet. I pretty much, I think I know what to expect. I'd like to make a brief point about both quote mining and the origin of our country. On the topic of the origin of our country, I could care less whether each and every founding father, as we call them today, was a convinced, converted theist, and a Christian particularly. It just plain doesn't matter. The modern-day argument made by, I hesitate to use inflammatory words, but I mean, there are ignorant people out there who are saying this is a Christian country founded on Christian values, and we need to return to those values or we have a problem. Now, Thunderfoot and others have made the point that the values we now call Christian are in fact Western values, were adopted by the West before Christianity came along. It is safe to say that the Christians affected what we would now call Western values, or what may be now called Christian values by the general parlance of our times. The simple fact is that it doesn't matter if each and every founding father, if every signer of every original document in our nation was a Christian. They took great pains to assure that this was not a religious nation of any sort. Separation of church and state, the Establishment Clause much? I mean, to find quotes from, we'll say, James Madison, who is the current focus of discussion, or Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Paine, John Adams, John Smith, I mean, take your pick. It doesn't matter whether they were religious. They were intelligent and socially conscious enough, even then, to ensure, through clauses in the documentation that founded this country, that we do not adhere to a religious belief system in this country. We just plain don't. So, as in my recent video to Hero of Christ, I will go ahead and accede the point. Let's go ahead and say, for the sake of argument, that every single founding father, every signer of the Declaration of Independence, every original writer in American history, was a diehard creationist Christian, 6,000-year-old Earth. I mean, just go all the way. Let's just say they all were. Big deal. Even if they were smart enough and conscious enough to declare formally, verbally, and in writing in the documents that we hold most hallowed within this nation that we do not operate on those principles. They knew, even if every one of them was a Christian, that to allow a nation to be founded on Christian principles would lead to the same sort of tyranny and religious oppression that they had recently fled when separating from England. I challenge anyone out there who really thinks that we're a Christian nation founded on Christian values to go read a couple accounts of the founding of this nation and to remember what the War of Independence really was about. The War of Independence, and once again, I'm not a historian here. The True Puka, people like Velcro Banana, I mean, they do a much better job than I do, and I'm not going to try to make a 100% accurate historical reference to it. But the War of Independence was about freedom from religious persecution. We can expand that logically and with reference, written by these very people that we were discussing, that they knew that even if they were Christians, to impose their religious will on others was an unacceptable outcome and would result only in the same sort of tyranny and oppression that they were fleeing at the time. I think I'm sounding a little scatterbrained here, but I'm baffled. I'm honestly baffled. I mean, how can you not catch that? We're a nation founded on Christian values? Says who? Read the books, read the documents. We are not a nation founded on Christian values, even if we are a nation founded by Christians. Okay, to continue, I'll make a brief point about quote mining. I really don't think there's anything I can say that hasn't been said by my intellectual superiors. I should say vastly superior. And I'm aware that this could turn into a rant fairly easily, but I'll just reference one video. I'll try to find the right one and post a video link in the description. Thunderfoot, in his Why Do People Laugh at Creationists series, turns the tables on Ray Comfort and Kirk Cameron by quote mining them. I believe it's Ray that says, "I would rather go to hell than believe in a megalomaniacal God." Or a megalomaniac-like God. Okay, there you go. So there's your quote mine. Now, what would you do if I quoted that? you would say, take it in context. So why don't you do the same thing? I mean, this quote mining thing is getting seriously tiring already. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know I just went on about this for a moment, but let's go ahead for a moment and just once again accept that these quotes are true. They still don't mean anything as to the nature of our country, the nature of democracy, the nature of the insight that was offered by the Founding Fathers. It just doesn't work that way. So, shock of God, I'm going to try to post this as a video response. The simple fact is that the quote mining is getting old already. What I am not as a historian, and what I am also not as a scientist, what I like to consider myself is at least an amateur logician. Now, if I found a school, and I am, let's say, a Wiccan, and I found a school, not a Wiccan school, just a school, university, would you then go ahead and say that that school, that university, was founded on Wiccan values? Of course not. It was founded by a man with Wiccan values, presuming that I was a Wiccan and founded that university. So how can you say that it just doesn't follow? I'm at the risk of turning really red and getting angry here, but it just doesn't make sense how you can attribute the motives of a man to the eventual construct that comes out of it, and just plain say that if the man who created it was a Christian, then the organization, the establishment, is a Christian. It does not follow. So I guess I'll conclude this on, I suppose, 2 points. The first is the casual insouciance with which your average Christian, and maybe I shouldn't say your average Christian, but your militant and vocal Christians can tell me that I'm going to hell without seeming to have any emotional response to this. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to recognize the video that I've gotten that recent inspiration from. But 1, I'm sick and tired of quote mining. 2, I'm sick and tired of Christians or religious folks in general playing the offense card when someone objects to their beliefs or objects to their standpoints, even calls into question the historical veracity of their statements, when at the same time they'll turn around and tell me that I'm going to hell because I don't believe in what they're preaching. How fair is that? I mean, if I came up to you and told you that the flying spaghetti monster will simmer you for eternity in under-seasoned marinara sauce if you don't comply with his will, what would you say? You would say that I'm being mean, I'm being unfair, I'm persecuting you. How am I supposed to feel when you tell me that I'm going to hell for not agreeing with you? Could I not make the same claim that I'm trying to help you as you make that you're trying to help me?